Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. I'm going to talk today in this video about the couple of fights from yesterday. John Ryder against Callum Smith and Deontay against Luis Ortiz. I've got a man like Tel with me here today. How's it going, Tel?
Not bad, mate. How are you, my friend?
Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad.
There's been some good boxing on, hasn't there?
Yeah. Well, let's start off with the Callum Smith, John Ryder fight. First of all, I can say that it was a lot closer than I expected. I thought that Callum Smith was I don't think he was going to completely dominate because I knew John Ryder is a pretty tough fight. I knew he's on good form. He's a mandatory challenger, so obviously he worked his way up there. And he had won 4 in a row by knockout, so I knew he wasn't just going to come to lie down. But I thought that the class of Callum Smith was going to be too much for him. But it wasn't really the case at all, was it?
Well, I mean, you could say that it's. I personally think he had a big off day. At the same time, you could say that was due to what Ryder did. Ryder didn't let him have a good day, but I think really I was expecting a much better performance from Smith than that.
Yeah, I don't think John Ryder really let him.
No.
The way he sort of that style just constantly. Well, I mean, I'd say the first few rounds, Callum Smith kind of had a bit more space, but then as he started to get into it, he just pushing back onto the ropes. I'm surprised he let him do that, to be honest with you. I know it's easier said than done.
I think the difference was that normally in that kind of situation, Smith could hit an opponent with something that would give him a bit of respect, and he couldn't really hurt Ryder. He was catching him with good punches, but Ryder is absolute nails, isn't he?
Yeah, I think going up to super middleweight has done him the world of good because he's had one stoppage. He's been stopped once against Nick Blackwell at middleweight. Yeah. It was just a real bad night for him. But since he's gone up to super middleweight, he's definitely it suits him a lot better. Potentially that could be a factor for Callum Smith. I mean, he did look a bit drawn at the weigh-in. He's a big lump for super middleweight.
Yeah.
And obviously now he's 29 or 30. His metabolism started to slow down. Could be quite difficult for him to. Obviously, they're not going to say it is, but
well, he definitely didn't seem to be having the same impact and effect with his punches. It might be that, as I say, I think Ryder is an absolute beast really at this weight, at least against Smith. But maybe he wasn't really. They weren't as venomous as maybe they would have been those punches a couple of years ago or 12 months ago. But you've got to say that Ryder, we need to talk now about how you've seen the scoring, how you've seen it going through the fight, but in overall, I would say Ryder was involved. At the very least, he had a decent showing in pretty much every round after the first few, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that the first 3 rounds, I'd say for me, Callum Smith won them quite clearly. I'd say the last 3 rounds, Ryder won them quite clearly.
All 3 of them?
Yeah, especially the 11th round. The 11th round for me was the clearest round.
Yeah, the 10th, I'm not so sure, to be honest. But
yeah, but I think he won those last. So I probably would have given it to him. And then from all the rounds in between were very, very close.
Yeah.
A couple of them because I watched it I watched it last night, and I wasn't scoring it or anything. My impression was that Callum Smith just about won. Then I'm slightly biased to that sort of style of boxing. He had landing better punches, cleaner punches. Whereas John Ryder was kind of pushing the action and swarming him a little bit. So some people prefer that. Me personally, as a judge, I prefer the kind of cleaner, classier work.
I'll be honest that for me, you've got to think there's 2 different ways of seeing it. There's the way that, personally, that I watched it last night, where I'm just watching it as a fan and I'm not really scoring it round by round and counting them up. Yeah. So if in the last 6-7 rounds you feel really the person who was always pressing, the person that was always moving forward and always ending the round strong as well was Ryder.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of the fight and you feel Ryder must have won this fight really.
Yeah.
But at the same time I was thinking probably Smith is going to win because he's the champion.
Yeah.
He's the guy that they've got really that they're trying to push into big fights now.
The money man, really.
Yeah. Not to say that I don't think he won. I can see how you could say he won a load of those rounds. Yeah. But at the same time, you did have a little bit of a feeling that Ryder probably needed to do something even more than this to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think there's an element of because John Ryder was the big underdog. If a round is even, he gets more credit for what he does than what Smith does, because where it's more taken for granted. Now Smith was for like landing some pretty nice punches, like some good body shots, some good like straight punches, but they weren't really affecting Ryder too much, like you say. Also, he was struggling with the sort of height, wasn't he? And the sort of dimensions of Ryder.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly. Maybe you can explain a little bit of the sort of technical side.
I reckon because basically like Ryder, because he had quite good head movement, and he like kind of he'd keep his chin tucked in, so he got the forehead. So he just sort of come in like that, and every time he's like jabbing, always like, hitting him on the forehead, which obviously doesn't do you much good. It hurts your hands more than anything else.
Yeah.
So he's kind of coming forward like that, not only giving you like the sort of top of the head to hit.
And at the same time, he was throwing punches, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then when he does close the distance, because he's quite quick on his feet, Ryder, Ryder.
Yeah.
And obviously like he's a southpaw as well, so like he can kind of get in from an angle which is quite difficult to deal with. Then when he does, he's got short arms, so like when he's just sort of flailing away like those body shots, it's quite difficult for Smith to fight him on the inside. Because Smith, normally for someone who's so tall with such long range, he's got a good inside game, like good body shots, that wicked like left hook he throws. But he wasn't really able to have. I mean, he caught Ryder with it a few times, but it didn't really have that much effect on him.
To me, the sort of the memorable punch in that fight for me was Ryder's like overhand right. He kept on, but he's hitting all the time to the body, and Smith is really kind of looking down at that and concentrating on that. And every time he threw the overhand right, he was connecting and hitting Smith. Smith's got a great chin as well.
Yeah.
But he's a big lump, but he's very hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could see every time like he got like hurt or there's a couple of head clashes, you could tell he's got like a nasty streak in him. He wanted to like put it on him, didn't he?
You can see he's a winner. Because I think definitely, whatever you say about Ryder, it wasn't a good night for Smith. No. Like he really did want to grind out a win however he could do it. So I was quite impressed by that, at least.
Well, everyone has like bad style matchups. You're seeing like some of the best fighters in history have like tough nights with people who like you wouldn't think could lace their boots, like generally. Do you know what I mean? Even like people like Muhammad Ali would like have like tough nights against mediocre people sometimes. So you see like Tyson Fury like arguably lose to like John McDermott, Mayweather like have a really tough fight with Madonna. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people just struggle with like people for whatever reason. Now people say it's a robbery, which I think is pretty over the top.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying this. Like, it seems to be like I don't know if it's just sort of everyone's jumping on it because everyone wants to say that there's been a robbery and that our Matchroom are doing dodgy stuff and you can't trust the UK judges, and it seems like they're all a little bit too much on it. I don't know if it was a robbery.
Well, I reckon like every time there's just been a lot of very dodgy scorecards, haven't there? Like every big fight like that, there's always like at least one scorecard which is like which is a bit suspect, isn't it? Because it's almost like something's like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a guarantee almost. So like just this person, like, because all those rounds you could technically give them all to apart from like the last three, all those middle rounds I'd say they're very close, most of them. So you could give them all to Smith if you wanted.
Why not?
But it's kind of like if you do, it looks if that always seems to happen.
I don't believe that it's fair. You couldn't expect a judge to see the fifth round and think, I think Smith won, and see the sixth round and think, I think Smith won, but I said Smith won the last one, so I need to change my judge. You can't do it like that. You just got to judge the round on your opinion in the shots that you saw.
And
that's what nobody's thinking about.
And at the end of it, you look and think, fucking hell, I've given him 9 in a row. I can't just go back and say, actually, well, I changed that then because it looks a bit iffy.
It's too late now. You saw the round, you judged it, and you said, I think this guy's won it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, people are not really like that. They've got to remember that there's two different things. There's what you saw as a fan watching the fight, and then if you bother like scoring the rounds, sometimes you just score the rounds and you think, I didn't see the fight like that, but my scoring has given me that.
Yeah. Each round should be like scored independently. Well, it is scored independently. So that's that. But having said that, there is generally like a sort of pattern, isn't there? Like the last fight we saw like Prograis against Taylor. Again, very real like close fight. I'd say like Taylor won the fight. Like he definitely won it, but like one judge gave him like pretty much every round. You know what I mean? There's always one where you just think like whether it's America or the UK,
and then we're literally relying on the other two going the other way, and that hardly ever happens.
Yeah. And then you've obviously got like social media, the way it is. People are going to like sort of jump on it, and they want to like sort of criticise like the big man, in this case like Matchroom or Top Rank, PBC, whoever it is.
To me, the thing is that when I watched it, if you had to say to me at the end of the fight, who would you say should be the winner? I would have said John Ryder. But I could understand why it was given the other way. What seems to me is a little bit unfair is everyone saying it's a robbery. Callum Smith hasn't robbed this win. I don't think that's harsh on him.
Personally, I watched it back this morning and I was like scoring it a bit. I kind of the way I was watching it, it was on YouTube the next day, and it was they just put all the rounds together. They didn't tell you which rounds were, and I kind of got a little bit distracted in the middle of it. But I scored quite a few of them, and watching it back, I would say really like a draw was probably like the fairest result. If I had to give it to anyone, I'd give the slight edge to Callum Smith, just based on what I particularly like to see. But I certainly wouldn't complain if it had gone to Ryder.
But these kind of fights, really, you're like, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, we know that the champion and the big name quite often is going to take those kind of wins.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're talking about him fighting at Anfield like next. So obviously, there's a lot of money involved in that. There's a lot of people. It's a big night for British boxing. He's obviously going to get the rub of the green, isn't he? If anyone is in that sort of situation.
Let's hope John Ryder gets on that card in a good fight that people want to watch and get some good coin.
John Ryder now, like he's a lot of people we look and think, I don't need that. I mean, he's just basically like Callum. People weren't in a rush to fight Callum Smith. I mean, he's fought 4 knockouts in a row. Then he's like arguably beating Callum Smith in a lot of people's eyes. He doesn't have a world title. He's not going to be a mandatory. He's not particularly bringing much money to the table. It's going to be quite difficult matching him up with like some of the big names, because that's just the way boxing is. There's very few people who really want to fight people, isn't it?
He's going to have to get himself into mandatory positions, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's definitely got a chance of getting a world championship belt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's a very good fighter, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's on real form, like real confidence. I mean, he was very confident going into it. He'd be even more confident now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now potentially he has got the beginning of a bigger fan base. People have watched that fight and thought, okay, I want to see him in his next fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically like the sort of moral victor. Really, his stock has just gone massively up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, he needs to have a intelligent next 6 to 12 months, doesn't he? But he can get right in the mix.
Yeah. What do you reckon of Callum Smith now? Because obviously people before talk about him fighting Canelo. Yeah, talk of him fighting Billy Joe Saunders.
I think he's a quality fighter. I think he needs to be in quality fights. Okay, he didn't fight very well last night at all, but generally, if you put him in against the best people in the world, you'll think he deserves to be there. And I think he can beat any of them. He could also lose to them, but I think he's at that level. He's a world class fighter. Yeah. He could potentially beat Canelo, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Canelo doesn't fight like John Ryder either. Like Canelo, we saw him fight against Kovalev. Obviously, he had to, with the sort of reach disadvantage, he had to get on the front foot and try and walk him down. But he's someone who fights generally like in spurts. He's not someone like a pressure fight. He's not just going to sort of get bulldoze you onto the ropes and just start flailing away like Ryder was. So it's a completely different type of fight. And Callum Smith, like a sharp shooter from range.
I think you have to be very, very disciplined when you fight against Callum Smith. Very, very disciplined. Because he's just going to be there. That's what Ryder was. Ryder was very disciplined in that fight, really. And he fought to a plan and he kept it going for the full 12 rounds. Yeah. And Canelo will have to do that, really, to beat him, I think.
The best fight I'd like to see Callum Smith in that way is David Benavidez. Have you seen him at all?
I've seen a little bit.
Yeah, I like him. But the thing with him, first of all, he's only young. I think he's like 24. PBC as well. So, like they're pretty much like want to make their own belt now. They just want to, and they've got another big fight for him in America. What's called Callum Plant, like who's another world champion. Yeah. So that's the obvious fight they're going to make. Callum Smith struggling to. I doubt he's going to make that. They're going to make that fight anytime soon. It's a shame because that, for me, stylistically, is what I'd like to see.
That would be a real big introduction to America to Smith.
Yeah. But if I was like Benavidez people, well, we know what they're like. To be fair, like you don't really blame them in this situation.
No,
like they're going to be
fight Callum Smith.
Well, when you can make an in-house fight with another American, which is going to be like bigger, it just makes more sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So you got Billy Joe Saunders there. One is Billy Joe Saunders is kind of like wants to fight like Canelo and all this, and like sort of I'd like to see those two fight.
I'd absolutely love to see that fight.
Yeah.
that's the best fight we can see, obviously, in UK boxing at that weight. Everyone wants to see that fight, don't they?
Yeah,
but it's a little bit of a shame if they fight each other without taking on without getting the chances in America against those guys.
Yeah. I don't know if like Tesco Joe's up for it though. Like everything he says about Billy Joe Saunders, he just like he doesn't fancy the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you can understand why.
Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders is a very difficult customer, isn't he?
Yeah, you're not going to look good against him, are you?
No.
And obviously that, John Ryder was a southpaw. I'm not sure how many southpaws Callum Smith fought, but that's obviously like quite a good. That's quite a good preparation. But obviously, his fights different to BJ Saunders, but at least fighting against the southpaw, like getting used to those kind of ankles a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, do you want to move on to the Wilder Ortiz?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't see this fight. I've seen the highlights in the morning, but I'll be honest, I couldn't really be bothered to stay up for what really I knew was going to be probably Ortiz being a better boxer than Wilder, and Wilder knocking him out, and that's what happened, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it basically went exactly as I thought it would. Well, to be honest, Ortiz was actually like outboxing him more than I thought he would. The first fight, I think people slightly exaggerated how much Ortiz outboxed him. I think he did like slightly outbox him, but it wasn't really like as much as people made out. I think this one, he pretty much won every round, and he did look a little bit better. He was Wilder was very tentative, looked, I wouldn't say scared, but he didn't really look like he wanted to throw anything. He was just very like on edge, and just like waiting for Ortiz, trying to.
Did Ortiz really hurt him at all in the early rounds?
No, not really.
No.
That's the thing. Like Wilder, he's quite tough. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously Ortiz is he's a good fighter. He's skillful, but he is like, well, we don't know how old he is, but he's. I mean.
He's not 40.
He's not 40. There's no way he's 40. We don't know. Some people say he's 50, like according to like anecdotal evidence. I don't know. Let's say he's between 40 and 50. So he's a good fighter, but he doesn't really have like that physical strength and power. Like, 'cause Wilder is pretty tough. He can take out people who are like low level, but like someone like Wilder, like he can hit him here and there. And Wilder's obviously taller than him. He's got longer. He's quicker on his feet, so you can't really get him that clean anyway. So he was outboxing him. Basically, what happened really, you could see he knocked him out in the 7th, and you could see that Ortiz was like fighting really well. Good head movement. He was good blocking, but he was just starting to slow down. Wilder obviously knows that. He's fought him before. He knows like how old like Ortiz. He doesn't know. He knows he's fucking old. He knows he's going to slow down. He knows he's got that big right hand. So he's just sort of thinking, right, at some point his head's going to like come off. Going to come off that line and stay on the centre line. I can just fucking nail him.
Yeah,
and that's what happened.
Yeah. Not really a surprise to anyone. Exactly what Wilder wanted. What his team wanted.
Yeah, I mean it was just
had to be done.
Well, I mean, I personally, I think that the reason why they made the fight was because partly because they didn't want to fight Joshua, and like, obviously, like Joshua just come to America, and like everyone thought he was going to beat Ruiz, and then obviously he's in America and basically just on your manner, like calling you out, and it's going to be serious pressure. So they basically sort of we need to. So like that week, we're going to fight like Ortiz in a rematch. So really, like Wilder had a bit of a touch in terms of what happened. At least for his reputation, because then everyone just sort of forgot about that.
Yeah, no one was talking about that.
No, everyone would have been going, "What the fuck is this all about? Why is this?" So no one was particularly interested in it, but at the same time, they weren't really caning him for it. I also think they promised it to Ortiz because they told him to turn down the Joshua fight.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason I think they turned down the Joshua fight is because obviously they didn't really want to contribute to DAZN having like a sort of successful debut for Joshua. So really, the crown in the jewel in Wilder's crown, was basically him beating Ortiz. So you can think what you want of that, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
So if they sort of tried to make him out as if he was like sort of George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, and Mike Tyson, plus Mayweather, all
someone else deals with him in a round, doesn't it? So good, does it?
Yeah. I mean, he could have beaten Joshua, you don't know, but I don't think they really wanted to take that risk. Joshua comes in and just beats him up. Then it's just like, so this is the bloke you were like really like hyping up. So they didn't let him take that fight. So they obviously said, look, we'll let you fight Wilder in a rematch. So that's basically why it's happened.
How much money do you think Ortiz has earned out of those two fights versus Wilder?
The first one, pretty much fuck all. He wasn't like, that's back then, like Wilder wasn't really.
But when you
this
say
one,
surely you mean like he won $1 million or something?
Well, apparently like less than, I don't know, like maybe in total he did, but like his official purse, I think, was about 500 grand.
Okay.
Maybe he got a little bit. I don't know. I've seen like reports. It was like 1.5 million, and then other people reporting it was a bit more. I don't really know, but I very much, if it was basically what they offered him for the zone, then obviously I've lost loads of money on that.
But whatever happens after these two fights, Ortiz has earned $1 million, $2 million, like whatever he's earned.
He could have earned a lot more.
However much he's earned. He's earned enough to be able to say now he can retire, surely. I mean, he's like a 50-year-old geezer getting whacked in the head by people like Deontay Wilder. He's got $2 million in the bank. Just retire now, mate.
Yeah.
Come on. He hasn't exactly. He's got no need to carry on. And like, we don't need to carry on with this lie. It's an old guy getting beaten up.
Yeah, but to be honest, mate, he was really, the thing with like Wilder, he was really like outbeat. He looked good against Wilder. The thing is, like, Wilder's obviously just a fucking unit, isn't he? Like, he just smacks you, can take you out.
But just because an old guy is good at boxing doesn't mean we should whack him in there with people who can knock him out.
No, but I'm saying, no, not everyone's Deontay Wilder, are they?
Yeah,
like, they can't just take you out from nowhere.
Yeah.
So he could fight against, he's still like a solid, like, in my opinion.
But should he be going in there and fighting, for example, Joshua or Dylan White or Tyson Fury or etc.? I mean, he's an old man.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is he came to America very late because obviously, like, he came from Cuba and he had to like defect, so he didn't really have a chance. Also, like, let's be honest, you see him now. He's been in America for like 10 plus years. You see him being interviewed, like, and like he's got someone like translating basic sentences for him into English. So it's not like he's a particularly ambitious man who wants to sort of take control and really make moves. He's quite happy to just sort of, let other people run everything and just kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's time that those people who are in charge of him, I think, say like, mate, you've had a good run, you've made some good bank, and it's time to knock it on the head now.
Well, I mean, I think he could still like fight against some of the contenders. I don't think he's going to.
He can fight against them, but what's the point? I don't think he's going to become world champion, and he's just an old man getting beaten up now and knocked out by champions.
Yeah, and he's taken like 2 like knockouts in a row.
Yeah. I don't think it's right. It's not morally correct. You know what I mean? If you want to beat up old men, then surely that's not championship boxing.
No. Which is obviously like what's going to be taken into consideration for this fight.
Yeah, it should be.
Wilder basically, he does look like he's getting better. Like in terms of, he doesn't look as clumsy as he used to. He doesn't look as reckless. He's got, you know what I mean? He just generally looks like slightly better.
Yeah.
But let's not sort of hype this up as something that it's not. When he fought him the first time, I gave him credit for it. I thought like Ortiz was pretty good. That was like a couple of years ago. He was unbeaten at that point. He looked skillful. Obviously, we hadn't seen Wilder. Plus, to be honest, the fact that like this was the first really like sort of consensus top 10 person he fought, I was kind of like, oh, fucking hell, wicked now. I can actually finally give him some credit for something. Do you know what I mean? So possibly like hyped it up a bit more than it was. Do you know what I mean? But that was a good win for him.
Yeah.
But now at this point, and they're still trying to make.
I just don't really think like there was any point in us watching this fight or watching the Fury fights he's had. We should just be watching. We should have been watching already. Wilder versus Fury 2. That's the fight we need to watch. Like they should have been fighting that straight away, and then let's crack on with like proper fights. But we just wasted a load of time.
To be fair to Wilder, that was basically like Fury and Bob Arum's fault. Because they were the ones who pulled out of like the original rematch.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Bob Arum, for whatever reason, thought that he could. I mean, to be fair, this WWE thing is probably the first thing they've actually done. We think, it is actually raising his profile.
Yeah.
Because Fury fighting against Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallen.
Watching this.
Yeah, they're not selling it. They're not selling any. Do you want a little? Yeah? They're not selling any tickets. They're not doing any like. I don't think it was pay-per-view, but it's not really like hyping up the.
No, nobody's watching it, are they? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Everybody wants to watch.
Right, it's time for.
Everybody wants to watch Wilder versus Fury 2. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Obviously, before that, we've got.
Just having a little sipping whiskey for the Sunday night.
Big up to all of those partaking in a little Sunday drink up.
Yeah. Got to be down, probably. Right. There you go, mate. Salute.
Salud.
So yeah, in summary, then Callum Smith against John Ryder was definitely not a robbery. I personally would have scored it a draw. Really, good performance from Ryder. Obviously, the stock of Callum Smith has dropped a little bit because everyone was saying that he's the number one super middleweight in the world. I think that he could like beat Canelo and stuff like that. I don't think I think a lot of people would be like disputing that now if they weren't already. Wilder Ortiz, decent enough performance. Well, in fact, it wasn't a decent really performance for Wilder. He lost every round. He barely threw a punch.
Yeah,
but
what did you
we know he's
expect
got
from
a big fucking punch. I mean, one thing you can't take away from him, he's just fucking lethal, isn't he?
Yeah, what do you expect from him? He's not gonna beat many good boxers in terms of on points, doing them every round, but he's got the equaliser. He's got.
You've got to say, like, because obviously he's kind of like, you know, like in football terms, which is almost like sort of quite annoying. If you play a team, you sort of batter them like all game, and then like you're all over and you hit the bar, you hit the post, you fucking miss a penalty, and then at the last minute they just fucking against the run of play go like nick a goal. You're like, for fuck's sake, he's kind of like that, isn't he? Well,
yeah, but that's what like an elite level, top level sport is all about, isn't it? People who are finishers, people who are Deontay Wilder, who are Harry Kane, who are the people who are just when the moment comes, they win the match with 1 second of instinctive brilliance, really. And like those are the ones who are worth that much money, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Deontay Wilder, I think, is one of the worst great heavyweight boxers we've ever seen, but he's going to end up, I think, potentially being called a great because it's one of the best ever knockout punches you've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I put it like this, mate. I think that like Joshua, Fury, even like Dylan White, they're all better than him. Do you know what I mean? But you certainly wouldn't feel confident like picking anything. You wouldn't pick anyone against him, really, would you? I mean, you might think he's going to beat Fury against him. You probably think like, Fury will beat him and outbox him. But I wouldn't really want to put much money on it because at any moment Wilder can just spark him.
I would say
he nearly did. He come within a second of doing it the first time.
The great boxers in the whole of history, you'd think like Wilder was worse than basically all of them, all the best heavyweights you can think throughout all the years. They'd all beat Wilder, but Wilder could beat literally every single one of them with that punch he's got. The punch power is impressive from Wilder. Yeah, like that's why he deserves to be in there.
Yeah, and also the patience.
Yeah,
and it's kind of, you could almost like argue that he could sort of suckered Ortiz into it because he was getting outboxed and Ortiz was just sort of bit by bit. Ortiz was slowing down. He's also sort of growing in confidence and he's just starting to kind of almost like take liberties like the end of it. And Wilder's just sort of thinking like at some point I'm just gonna. So he's sort of keeping himself protected enough to not take too much damage and let them build up their confidence and kind of. Like a mouse trap almost. You basically put there, bang, just take you out.
And he knows that his really seriously heavy punch is obviously much more effective in the 7th round or the 10th round or the 12th round than it is in the 2nd. And as he like goes on in his career, and now he's fighting better people, he's probably accepted. I don't need to win like with a knockout in the 3rd round, but I need to win with a knockout at some point. And he saves that punch now from when the opposition is tired.
One thing is though, like it's one thing if you're fighting a sort of 50-year-old who's basically like, if you're fighting someone who's like young, strong, fit, hard puncher, who's going to win, you might not have fucking like 6 rounds to like land a good punch.
I still think that Ortiz obviously doesn't really have the same thing that Fury has. Fury can outbox Wilder obviously, but he can also hurt him. And I don't really think Ortiz now like. A long time since his last fight against Wilder. Yeah. He just didn't really have something to really sting him, and hurt Wilder. And Wilder, if it's like that, he can just try and stay out of trouble and know that when he gets his one opening, he'll just take him out.
Yeah, I think the difference really with like Ortiz and Fury is that basically Ortiz can like hit him with a good punch, but he can't really follow it up. He doesn't have the energy, doesn't have the legs. Whereas like Fury could grind it. He's not like a big puncher. That's not his style. Pressure, but he can kind of get on top of you, like body shots, like big bloke, rough you up. Do you know what I mean? Also, he's very tough. Like Ortiz got hit, knocked down, didn't get up. To be fair, it's only 1 second in it. But when he did get up, he looked like
I don't think he really wanted to.
No, but when he did get up, like he got up at 10 and he was like, where the fuck am I? You saw him on the floor, he literally looked like he should fucking smacked on the end of the baseball bat.
Yeah.
Whereas like Tyson Fury sort of got up
Tyson Fury 9, as soon as he knew where he was.
And then he was up. Yeah, and he actually took it to Wilder. So like his sort of powers of recovery, his sort of instinct, I think, are just give him that advantage. But I mean,
I personally think at this level of sport, it's mostly about hunger, and Fury definitely 100% has got that hunger, or at least had it when he fought Wilder the first time. I don't know
instinctively,
if Ortiz doesn't really have that hunger.
No, mate. To be honest, mate, like to me, I look linguistically. This might be like me. I look at like Ortiz there after like 10 years in America, just basically sort of saying like basic stuff and having some bloke not even saying what he said. I don't know if you've seen any interviews. Bloke literally makes stuff up. He didn't even say, and he's just sitting there like kind of. He'll say like, yeah, I think Wilder's like someone said, do you think Wilder? Oh, he's a good, yeah, Wilder's a good puncher. He's dangerous, of course he is. And this bloke will just come up with some madness, like just like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that to me,
he doesn't care about how people see him, how they understand him. He's not interested.
Well, I just don't think he's particularly like ambitious. He's just quite sort of. He's just got that mentality of like, I'm sort of whatever. I can't understand how you could be in that position. Obviously, me being in that position myself, it never happened. You never have me like sitting there just saying it like just that sort of drive. I just don't think he's got it in him.
Yeah, he's not being built, and he doesn't want to build himself to be a champion. Really, he's just there for a few paydays, which is what
exactly. Yeah, and that's why I've got no real sympathy when people sort of say, "Oh, he's been avoided." He's done nothing to promote himself.
Yeah.
He knows he's Cuban, which obviously is difficult because he doesn't really have a fan base behind him because they can't really get there to support him. So he's made no effort to try to promote himself. You know what I mean? So yeah, all right then. Should we leave it there, shall we?
Yeah. Looking forward to the upcoming fight, Joshua Ruiz 2.
Yeah.
Like maybe talk about that sometime in the next few days.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that.
All right then.
All right, mate. Nice one.
Take care.
So thanks for watching, everyone. Good night.